Beautiful sunny day here in Cincinnati, Ohio. Working on this 13 base model Corvette. My baby. Nice Sport Gen LS3 to work on. Well, I got the P0300 diagnostic trouble code, and I have been through the gamut, checked everything under the sun. It isn't given a P0308 code, but the misfire counter is only counting a miss on cylinder 8. And I've checked everything, you know, from plug, wire, coil, injector harness, coil harness, checked the spark plug to make sure it wasn't cracked, or, you know, confirmed it was doing its job. Basically, been through it all. Well, I was down there the other day, and I pulled on the starter, and the casing around the armature was loose. And I guess that's the price you pay when you replace AC Delco parts with Duralast parts that have a lifetime warranty, because you're going to need that lifetime warranty probably every year after you buy that part. So it's covered under warranty. I'm going to take it off, and I'm just going to exchange it for now, but I think I'm going to try to find me an AC Delco for a decent price to replace it with, because I think it's the cause of my random misfire code. You know, it's probably shaking. I mean, that's how loose it is. It's shaking on the block. So the knock sensor could very well be picking that up and reducing timing, or changing the fuel pulse, pulse width management, something like that. So I'm hoping that starter replacement is going to get rid of the code, or it's not going to return after I swap the starter out. We'll get under there, and I'll show you what I found, and show you how easy it is to get the starter out. Always disconnect your battery before getting in there and messing with your starter. Last thing you want to do is short the starter out against the block and maybe cause yourself some serious electrical problems. It could fry your ECM, body control module, who knows. Always disconnect your negative battery terminal first. It's a 10mm. So we'll go ahead and take this off, and then we'll crawl up underneath the car. Just a reminder, never shut your hood with the battery disconnected. What I would suggest doing is, if you're planning on disconnecting the battery, roll the windows down in the car. So if you mess up and close the hood, you can still get into the car. Because I'm sure you can imagine the difficulties you might have getting into the car if it's all closed up and the battery's disconnected. So make sure you take that easy step and protect yourself. Alright, I'm going to get under the car, and we'll look at that starter. Alright, so right here we have the starter, and a couple things you want to do is you want to get your 13mm socket ready. These are 13mm, there's two of them. You want to unplug your oil temperature sending unit so you can pull this harness out of the way. Now, you want to get a hand wrench in here and take loose this 13. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, right here. It's a 13mm. Let me confirm that. So I slipped me a little 13mm socket on there, a little 1/4 inch drive, so my ratchet's nice and small. That dipstick tube's getting in the way of the ratchet. Yeah, you can see it. That dipstick tube and the harness there together is kind of making it tight to get a quarter or a 3/8 drive ratchet in there. It's a little tight. Okay, so to get this plug out, there's two things you can do. You can unbolt the starter and drop it in a way where you can get to the plug easier. Let's take a look at it. Okay, you see that locking tab on the top? You can take a screwdriver and stick it up in there and just push on the side. Like you push on this side of it, right here. And the clip's on the top, so you can push from underneath and push up on this tab and then just kind of pry outwards with a flathead screwdriver. Be careful, this tab is brittle, but this is the kind of tab that it slides over top of the housing for the plug. So you got to pinch it back here and it picks this end up. And so what I did is I just got my screwdriver up here and pried it up the tiniest bit, and then I pried outwards so it pushed the plug out. But it goes in. It goes in like that basically. You know, and so you get up there and you push on that tab and then you pull out at the same time. It worked pretty good. It sounds harder than it is. It's pretty simple. But as long as you know how the plug is here, you know, it's always hard to unplug a plug when you don't know what style it is, but basically this end of the plug needs to come up off of the little stud. It goes over the top of the stud. So if you can push this end of the tab up, it's going to unlock it and then you can pull it out. Alright, so I'm going to take loose my 213s and drop this starter down. All in here. You're going to see that moving. It moves an awful lot. I know I'm in here tight, but basically I thought I could get this starter out of here without taking the exhaust downpipes loose. I took them loose the first time I did this job because I just wanted to make it easy on myself and have plenty of room, since I didn't know nothing about the plug and I didn't know much about the harness here. So I took it loose to make sure I had a good idea on what I was doing. But this stupid provision on the block here is keeping the starter from being able to come straight back out of the bell housing. It hits that. And then when you try to go around it, you hit the exhaust. You can't go up. You can't go down because of this. And obviously the nose of the starter is in the bell housing. You can only pull it back about a ½ inch. So the exhaust has to come loose. You might as well just do that first to start with. Looks like it's a 14 or a 15. When you put them back in, use anti-seize. And next time you go to take them out, it shouldn't be a problem. Don't over tighten them. They kept the box. You know, I took the core in, or the warranty exchange in, and the box the starter came in, they kept for themselves instead of giving it to me. I had to put my shit in a bag. So the back of this one is not loose. Let's hope this solves our issue. Get up under there and show you what it takes. Alright, I don't know if you can see that strap for the positive on the starter. But I stuck the starter up in there and hooked that ring terminal on the stud, so I won't have to maneuver that on there. and I'd like to get it plugged in before I put it in its final position. Don't forget to hook this plastic shroud over the starter when you stick it up in here, because if you don't do that first after you get it in there, it's not going to go in. You'll have to take it back out. So I'm going to try to get this plugged in and stuck up into its spot. This end of the exhaust is unbolted, so I'll leave that loose and try to wedge this up in there. Alright, now just like with anything, a good strategy would be to get all your fittings in their spot and loose before you actually tighten them down. Like for instance, this cover bolt here, I've got that started in its hole, so like say if I cinch these down, it could keep that cover from moving. If I cinch this down first, when I tighten those, it might jam up and break that plastic. So get them both started, and then I'm going to cinch down the starter first, because that bolt started, so you know it's very close to where it needs to be in that little plastic shroud. And then I'll come back here, and my plug's plugged in. I got my nut loose on the positive terminal to the relay. Once I get all that tightened up, then I'll just plug in my harness and make sure all my wires are in a good spot, and then I'll need to put the studs in the exhaust and make sure the exhaust gasket is lined up good. Which doesn't look like it. Oh, it did. It fell out. There it sits. So I'm going to have to wedge that back in, which might be a little pain in the ass actually. We will see. I'm going to do that before anything else, because it'd be terrible if I'd have to take the starter back down. Alright, I got my downpipe bolts in and the gasket lined up. Now what I'm going to do is, because I got both bolts in and the gaskets lined up, is I'm going to tighten one of them down to hold the gasket from moving, and then I'm going to take this other one out and put anti-seize on it, run it back in tight, and then take this one back out, put anti-seize on it, run it back in tight, so my gasket doesn't move around. I don't want to have to fight that twice, but I definitely want to get anti-seize on that stud, so next time I have to do this job in a year, I can get those studs out. Alright, here's our silver, that stuff in Dr. Seuss, the green stuff or whatever, that just keeps going and going and going. It's just like, don't hit the volume button, that'll end the video. So you just want to, don't be shy with an exhaust bolt. Get a good bit on there. Alright. Get her started. Do the same thing to this one. You want to make sure you get it on there. Not a little bit. You want to get a lot of bit on these bolts, because these bad boys super want to seize. Ah, probably got that shit in my hair. Fuck. I hate this stuff, man. It's so messy. I don't want it all over my impact gun. On two. Go ahead, hit her home. And we are done, folks. Amen for that. Hopefully this gets rid of my misfire count.